Toyota's Prius remains the most recognisable hybrid vehicle on our roads and took a big step forward in this 4th generation, guys. This Mark IV model introduced a sleeker, more striking shape made possible by a stiffer, more sophisticated platform that helps to substantially improve the handling. The hybrid powertrain's clever too, hence a set of efficiency returns that continue to establish this car's superiority over comparably priced diesel rivals. But the electrified vehicle marketplace is these days very different, and the Prius must continue to adapt. So in mid-2019, this XW50 series design was enhanced with a general wash and brush up and the novel option of all-wheel drive. That's the car we're going to look at here. This revised version of the Mark IV Prius model doesn't feature any engineering enhancements, but Toyota has embellished this self-charging hybrid's appeal by adding in the option of all-wheel drive, which is what we'll be trying here. We'll get to that, but first we'll need to brief you on the way this 4th generation XW50 series design has dynamically advanced this model line quite a lot, thanks to the extra stiffness and lower centre of gravity made possible by the adoption of the brand's TNGA Toyota New Global Architecture platform. The surprisingly accurate feel and feedback of this Mark IV model's electric steering system also helps here, as does the redesigned double wishbone rear suspension layout that's far better than the previous damping setup at soaking up impacts from our country's terrible tarmac. As before, the hybrid Synergy drive system allows very limited all-electric progress at speeds of up to 31 miles an hour, which you can insist upon by pressing this EV button. But most of the time you'll leave the hybrid setup in its automatic comfort zone, where engine and battery power cut in and out with seamless synchronicity. As part of this, during deceleration and under braking, the engine switches off and both electric motors act as high-output generators, recovering kinetic energy that automatically recharges the batteries for the next time the hybrid system is able to switch back to electric-only mode. You can increase the effectiveness of the regeneration process by flicking the gear lever from D into this B setting. The Prius hybrid powertrain has been mated to a 1.8-litre petrol unit ever since 2009, but this particular VVTi unit is very different to that used in the pre-2016 Mark III model and works in partnership with a more responsive CVT automatic gearbox. These days, the hybrid technology uses a more effective battery and a clever heat recovery system which combine to enable the electric motor to cut in 60% more frequently than it did with the previous pre-2016 era Mark III model. That's a major factor in the creation of impressive WLTP efficiency stats that claim a front-driven version of this car to be capable of up to 68.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and up to 94 grams per kilometre of CO2. That's assuming the car is running on the smaller 15-inch alloy wheels. To get anywhere near to that kind of return, of course, you've got to embrace a very environmentally minded style of driving, activating the provided eco mode and keeping an eye on the vast array of electronic readouts provided to discourage any unnecessary flexing of the right foot. It's the Prius way, though, and the payoff comes at the pumps. We'll finish with a mention for the optional all-wheel drive-i setup that we're trying here, though we think few buyers will want it. This E4 setup automatically engages to provide additional drive to the rear wheels in slippery conditions, transferring torque to the rear axle when sensors detect a loss of grip. The appearance of a Prius must not only be instantly recognisable, but also aggressively futuristic. That is, after all, the whole point of it. Were you to want this technology packaged more conventionally, you would be looking at one of Toyota's more ordinary models, maybe a Yaris, a Corolla or a RAV4. Here, in contrast, is the poster child of the eco-revolution, complete with its familiar styling cues, the trademark arching roofline, the slab sides and the double rear screen. Yet somehow, with this Mark IV design, the Prius visual formula has been reinterpreted. The concept behind this car reinvented for the modern era by a team of young Japanese designers who set out to make it look more powerful, engaging and sporty. Time to move inside and investigate a cabin that committed Prius people will find satisfyingly futuristic yet familiar. Nothing's really changed with the revised version of this 4th generation model, apart from a few minor trim enhancements. Piano black dash trimming, smarter seat upholstery, that sort of thing. As usual in a Prius, there are no conventional dials to view through the 3-spoke steering wheel. Instead, the instrument cluster retains its position top and centre on the dash, in this case made up of a couple of 4.2-inch TFT colour screens. The main display, closest to you, incorporates a digital speed and driving mode readout, while to the left of it, a further multi-information display gives you information about the hybrid system and eco-driving guidance, along with a range of other driving info. Anything this can't tell you will probably be dealt with by the Toyota Touch 2 media screen that sits a little further down on the centre stack, which now has an upgraded DAB audio system and further up the range can be equipped with navigation, a range of useful media features and even Wi-Fi connectivity. As for what we've learnt during our test, well, the curious stubby blue auto gear lever falls neatly to hand, but its light, frictionless action is rather at odds with the effort required to operate the ratcheting foot-pumped parking brake. The lower bonnet and the deeper windscreen mean that forward visibility is okay. Unfortunately, though, the split rear screen still compromises your view out back, so the standard rear view camera is a welcome feature. Time to move rearwards and take a seat in the back, a process that, unless you're really quite short, will involve the need to duck below the sloping roofline. Legroom here is generous, and thanks to the low centre transmission tunnel, it's easier to seat 3 folk than it normally would be in this size of car. Finally, let's take a look out back. With the first 3 generations of Prius models, the batteries took up cargo room. Not today. They've been specifically designed here to be more compact, and this, along with this Mark IV version's well-packaged rear suspension and particularly compact hybrid system, means that boot capacity is surprisingly spacious for an electrified family hatch, rated at 502 litres, 343 litres of it below the window line. For reference, the pre-2016 Mark III Prius had 56 litres less than that, so packaging progress has clearly been made, and this figure certainly looks better than the 443 litre capacity of a rival Hyundai Ioniq hybrid. There are a few spatial caveats to bear in mind though. On base spec models with the smaller 15-inch wheel rims, Toyota supplies the space-saver spare wheel that you don't get with variants that feature the larger 17-inch wheels. Toyota's Prius continues to make real-world sense, a car you can justify buying even if you're not trying to make some kind of environmental statement. True, it isn't cheap, but it's decent value for what you get, especially if you compare against comparably specified high-efficiency diesel rivals featuring engine technology that, by comparison, dates back to the Ark. With enhanced driving dynamics, a roomier cabin, and more user-friendly design, this 4th generation version has dealt with many of the drawbacks which used to be part and parcel of Prius ownership. And this lightly revised version has added a bit of welcome extra tinsel to what is now a fundamentally very strong package. As a result, Toyota has created a model that remains difficult to ignore in the gloomy times we live in. A Prius for the people, then. That's about the size of it. Toyota's hybrid revolution continues to gather pace.